I'd also like to especially thank my wife Gwen for accompanying me this evening. Appreciate that. She was the prettiest girl in school and academically at the top of her class, a cheerleader. Sings like an angel and plays the piano beautifully, and kind of Rusty and John Collier and I and Dick Naylor had something in common. We each overachieved when it came to marriage. And Pat Nichols and Gwen and Gene Collier and Lorna Naylor each have something in common. They underachieved. But the folk you're about to meet tonight certainly did not overachieve. Each was equipped with special qualities that assured excellence. They certainly did not underachieve, for as you'll see, the standards they established are to be envied. These stars, and stars they are, represent 6 decades of athletic and academic distinction at Hanover College and 10 lifetimes of contribution to the world around them. They truly epitomize the values for which Hanover is widely recognized, so it's only appropriate this evening to acknowledge the accomplishments of each. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you the Hanover College Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2002. Thank you, and I know they appreciate that greeting as well. We have one announcement real quick before we start this evening's program. Once again this year there will be a Halloween party for the Hanover faculty and staff. The theme this year is to come dressed as your favorite character in the Bible. Dr. Nichols is coming as Charlton Heston. Dan Allen, class of 1978. Dan came to Hanover in 1974 from Cincinnati. He was a 4-year letter winner for Hanover's football team and gathered 2 letters in baseball. Football, Dan was an All-American and team captain his senior season. 3 times was conference and all-district performer. Also the team's leading tackler. In baseball, team captain, twice won all conference and all district honors, and he's gone on to a successful coaching career. His first position was as an assistant to former Hanover coach Rick Carter at Holy Cross College. Dan later served 6 years as head football coach at Boston University. If he'd have been there, by golly, last night they might have won. And there he remains today. Presenting Dan with his award tonight is Hanover baseball coach, internationally known for his skills, Dick Naylor. So ladies and gentlemen, Dan Allen.
Dick, move around here, let me get the picture too. Huh? Yeah. All right, good. Remember now, one more.
Yeah.
All right. There you go, man.
Thank you very much. I guarantee I moved a lot faster than I did tonight. I have a little health problems right here, but I'm going to get through it, Lord willing, and I'm very, very excited to be here tonight with everyone. It's just great to be back on campus here at Hanover College and seeing a lot of old friends and familiar faces. This is quite an honor, believe me. Just want to thank the selection committee for feeling that I was worthy to be one of the recipients here tonight. Everything I've done in my life, I've tried to do it the right way, and it all started, believe it or not, when I was a youngster, but it carried on into Hanover College. And I've been very fortunate to to have such a great education. And to be recognized as doing something that you love to do, and something that obviously I guess I've done pretty well, makes you feel pretty good. Those are things we can talk about. Being a student here, like most students, I also did a lot of things we don't want to talk about. I met a good friend, Gary Kemper, earlier this evening, so we'll just leave it at that. But I do want to congratulate all the other recipients here tonight. It's a great honor for you and your families, and kind of a culmination of a lot of hard work that you've had in your undergraduate years here at Hanover College as well. Very fortunate to have a lot of my family here with me tonight. I'd like to introduce them to you if I could. First is my wife, Laura, my daughter, Danielle, my son, Taylor. My oldest son, Mark, has a football game tomorrow. He wanted to be here, but he's got a big game. They're 4-0. So he made a tough choice. He decided to stay back, I guess because he's having a lot of success. And who knows, maybe he'll be wearing the Hanover Panther uniform someday as well. I have my father-in-law here, Clarence, and if you've noticed, he's baked a nice cake down here. If anyone wants a piece of cake, we got plenty for everyone, so please come by. He's quite a baker. He's done a great job. Even made our wedding cake many, many moons ago. My brother is here, Dennis, his wife Carol, and their entire family. I have my brother-in-laws here, Carl and Glenn. They've seen many, many Hanover Panther games as well. And have a good friend of mine, Glenn Clausen. Glenn and I go way back here. We won't tell you some of the things we did, or, well, I'll just leave it at that, Glenn. Okay? Never in my wildest dreams would I believe I'd be standing before you people accepting an award like this. It's a recognition, really, of a lot of efforts by a lot of people. And certainly the teammates that I had the great fortune of playing with here at Hanover, both on the football field and on the baseball diamond, I really feel made what I am today as a person. Great friendships, opportunity to play with some great people. And to be honest with you, none of this would have happened if it really weren't for three people early in my life. The first one was Rick Carter. Many of you remember Rick Carter here as a football coach. I think he's one of the best football coaches that ever coached a game of football. But he was very persistent in recruiting me. To be honest, I didn't know what I was going to do coming out of high school. And I don't know if it would ever happen today, but in June, after my senior year, I've already graduated, I get a phone call from Coach Carter. He's at one of my friend's house who decided to come to Hanover as well. He said, listen, this is your last chance. Bring your $100 deposit. I don't know if it's $100 anymore, but I'm sure it's a little bit more expensive. My, how things have changed. But, and I said, well, okay, I guess I'll do it. And it was the best move I've ever had. But the problem is, I didn't know how I was going to pay that $100. Which comes to the second person. It was my grandmother. I called my grandmother. I was actually staying with her at the time. She forked up the dough, and the rest is history. But she's been very influential in my life, and unfortunately, she's not here. Hopefully, she's in heaven looking down upon us right now, enjoying us along with my mother. Third person is my wife. My wife, to the dismay, think of some of the coaches when I was an undergraduate here. I got married right before my junior year in college. Now, I know the coaches were not very happy about that, but it all worked out, believe me. Once I got married, I toned down a little bit. Like most college students, you get a little excited when you become a first year in school, but all those things were taken care of when I married Laura. She's been a great support, certainly financially when I was here. She worked, emotionally, spiritually, throughout her entire life. She's made some great sacrifices in order for me to do the things I love to do, and that is be associated with college athletics and in particular with football. But I will say this to Coach Naylor and Coach Collier, who are here. She's the one that made me get up at 5 in the morning to work out because it was so hot in August. And she actually worked out with me. So without her help, I certainly wouldn't be standing up here. This is an award for her as much as it is for me. But I've been truly blessed and fortunate as an athlete. As a young kid, I had some great coaches that taught me the techniques and the fundamentals, and that really carried over into Hanover College. I've had some outstanding coaches here, here at Hanover. As I mentioned, Coach Carter, I think, was the finest coach that college football has ever seen. Coach Naylor, I appreciate you presenting the award to me. It means a great deal to me. I've learned more about the sport of baseball than I'll ever begin. You know more than I'll ever begin to know, that's for sure. When I coach my kids, I use your fundamentals and your philosophies and the techniques, and I'm still learning every day. And I appreciate all you've taught me when I was here. You gave me a break when I was a junior. Daggone guy cut me my freshman year. I'm still upset with him about that. But all things work out, and as it always does. But Coach Nair, I thank you for everything that you've done for me, and as an undergraduate, we still do stay in touch. I mentioned Glenn Clausen earlier. We stay in touch as well as we do with Marty Grimes is here. There's a lot of guys I played with. They're outstanding players. Will be here before too long. But when I look back at my years here at Hanover College, I just see how lucky I was to have an opportunity to come here and to get a great education. Don't really realize it that much when you're an undergraduate going through the college ranks and that type of thing, but now you look back at it, and I feel I am where I am today because of the coaches I was associated with, the administrators, the faculty, and certainly the players that I was associated with at Hanover. And because of them, this award belongs to you, just as it does to me, and I share this with everyone here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. By the way, from what I've heard, tamed was the right word. And that cake, well, that's a sentimental moment. Gwen kept the whole bottom layer of our wedding cake. And every September 1st, cuts a slice of it. It's in the freezer. She cuts a slice of it, throws it at me. Pete Corrao, class of 1976. Pete came to Hanover from Clarksville Providence High School in 1972. He was a 4-year letter winner with Hanover's football team, a key member of squads which won a school record 26 straight regular season games. He was a team captain and most valuable lineman, as well as a 2-time All-Conference and All-District selection. An honorable mention All-American as well. He was also a 3-time recipient of the Dutch Strug Mental Attitude Award. After serving as an assistant football coach and instructor at Dayton, Eastern Kentucky, and Holy Cross, Pete moved into the business world. Today, he's president of the Nice Group Incorporated, and tonight, presenting Pete with his award is his classmate and teammate, Hanover Hall of Fame member Bruce Harbison, and also participating will be Pete's son, Phil, a current member of the Panther football team, who may just well break that 26-game streak record because they're outstanding. Please welcome Pete Corrao.
Thanks, Hank. My son just told me not to yell in the mic, so his mother told me not to do that. Having been an old football coach, I have a tendency to do that sometimes, but Hank, thanks for the nice introduction. Members of the Hall of Fame, the committee, honored guests, friends and relatives, I'm deeply honored and humbled to be standing among you this evening with such a distinguished group of inductees. This is a great honor that I must share with a number of people. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everyone who made this night possible. First of all, the staff here at the college for a nice meal, for the committee, and for Hanover College for providing all of us with a great experience in academics as well as athletics. I'd also like to recognize the people that have enabled me to be here tonight. I'm sorry if I miss anyone, but, and I'm sorry if I get emotional. I've got a tendency to do that. But anyway, all these people and all of you have had a profound effect on my life, and I really appreciate that. Quit laughing, Tina. I see you. I want to thank my mother and dad, Bob and Ruth Harbison, for all the games you watched. Don't do that, Mom. For all the games you watched Bruce and I play through the years. Grade school, high school, college. You're always there, the best in my book. My mom and dad were a great combo. My mom did all the yelling and screaming at the games, and my dad sat somewhere else. My dad exposed me to athletics. He refereed for 30 years. He took me with him, and back in the 50s and 60s, you could do that. And he'd take a little kid with him to go to ball games, and that's how really my love for athletics was formed. Now, my mom, she provided the fire, as you can well imagine. She was a vocal person. She whipped the fire out of my brother and I quite a few times through the years. And I'd just like to recognize my mother and Ruth Harbison, the two Ruths. Would you please stand? Thanks. I'd also like to thank the Spencer family. Don and Betty Spencer, my in-laws, have been great to me for, well, I've been married 25 years. I think my mother-in-law and I've gotten along for at least 10 or 15. And I'm only kidding. She's a wonderful person, and they're two of my very best friends. All the Spencers have extended themselves to me through the years, and I appreciate that. Would all of you stand? All the Spencers, the Houstons, the Dailies, all of you stand, please. Where are you guys? I know you're all back here. My brother and sister-in-law, Carol and Murphy Houston, flew in, and my niece Carrie flew in from Denver to be here tonight, so thank you very much. Also, my brother-in-laws, Tom and Jim Spencer, they're both captains here, most valuable players, two of the finest football players Hanover's ever had. Tom's here tonight. Tom, thank you. I also want to thank all the coaches that have been part of my life. Bruce and I had coaches, grade school and high school. We're tremendous coaches, did a great job starting our engines. Also, when we came here and played for Rick Carter, Rick recruited us his first year here, and I think I was kind of the throw-in to come with Bruce. You know, he was a riverboat gambler, and I was his, you know, guy up front or whatever. I was a center, and Bruce was a quarterback, so we're very close, as you can imagine. Would also like to not only thank Coach Carter, who's passed away, but was a great influence on us. I'd like to thank, of course, Coach Carter for my start in college football and giving me an opportunity to coach, and also Roy Kidd at Eastern Kentucky University and all the coaches down there. Joe Blankenship's here tonight. Joe, thanks for showing up, you and Brenda. I appreciate that. But I had a great group of coaches that I coached with, that I played for, and everything else. And believe me, they've helped me grow up and just were wonderful people. I'd also like to thank Coach Collier. He's one of the all-time greatest college basketball coaches, and he was a great supporter of our football program when I was here. He was one of my teachers when I was here. And he and Coach Naylor team taught a class. That was wild, as you can imagine. But I'd also like to thank Coach Naylor. He was our trainer. He coached basketball. He's one of the all-time greatest baseball coaches in the history of college baseball. And I think Hanover needs to break with tradition. And while Coach is still here, I don't care if he's here for another 20 years. We need to name the baseball stadium Naylor Field. So that's a plug from me up here. I really believe that. Thanks, Coach. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about a touch football game out in front of Donner Hall in 1974. We had a big tackle on our football team named Glenn Brown. He's out there playing GB. He probably weighed 280, 300 pounds then. And he cold cocks with a clothesline one of our co-eds. And I go over to see if she's okay. And then I jump all over GB, and she gets up and keeps playing. And I knew then that I needed to marry that girl. And I did. And after 25 years of marriage and 4 wonderful children, I made the right choice, and she is my best friend. Suzanne, would you please stand? And Hank, she married down. Also, my children are here. Phil is a senior here at Hanover. He had a career-ending back injury a couple years ago, and he's on the coaching staff here and working with the receivers. They're ranked, the football team's ranked 13th in the nation, I think, as of this week in D3, and number 1 in pass offense. So get those resumes out, Phil. Bruce Harbison and I, of course, had a great relationship in grade school, high school, and college, and a great experience. Before I forget, I want to introduce the rest of my kids. Tina, my daughter Christina is a sophomore at IU. She's with us. Spencer's in the 4th grade, and Tony's in the 1st grade. They're all jocks. They're all good-looking kids. They're just like their mother. But moving on, when I was in high school, I had some great teammates. I had some great friends, and that have stuck with me for many, many years. One of my teammates was my brother Bill, and Bill ended up being a 3-sport athlete in high school, taking his team to the first state championship in Indiana high school football, and played here at Hanover for about a year or so, but has done a great job with his life. He's got a wonderful family. Bill, where are you? Raise your hand. There we go. Bill and his family, thank you for coming tonight. I appreciate that. His son Justin came in from Clemson. His daughter came from Wright State. And Bill and Carrie came in from Dayton. So I appreciate you guys being here. I also played in high school with a really close friend of mine we've stayed friends, and usually your college friends you kind of hang with forever, and I had a group of high school friends that I'm still close with. And Tim Quinkert is a guy that for about 10 or 11 years we've announced the high school games down at Providence together and had a great time. And Tim is probably a good confidant, a great friend. We've been through a lot together. And where are you, Tim? Raise your hand, buddy. Thank you very much. Also, playing in high school, I got my bumps and bruises, and playing in college, I got my bumps and bruises and cuts and strains and breaks and whatever. And I could always go home and see my Uncle Tom. My Uncle Tom's a doctor down in Jeffersonville. He's still practicing, and Uncle Tom and Betty kept me put together for many, many years, and I want to thank you for that, and thank all of you guys for coming tonight. Now, back in the days when we were here at Hanover, we probably had one of the finest radio guys in college sports. Well, it was Jack Fultz. So anyway, he was here. He did a lot of our games. Flannelmouth, thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you've done for us. He really loved every one of us. He still remembers all our numbers. He remembers what we did, what our records were, and everything else, and did a tremendous job. We had, if we had awards that needed to be sponsored or whatever, and they couldn't get a sponsor, Jack paid for it. If there was advertising that needed to be done and whatever, none of us knew that. But he picked up the tab, he took care of us, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much, Flannelmouth, Jack Flannelmouth Fultz. Thank you. Now, I played with a team of Hall of Famers here at Hanover. There's no question in my mind we had some of the finest athletes I've ever been associated with. And I coached college football for 10 years. We won a national championship in 1979 at Eastern Kentucky. We had some great teams at Holy Cross and at UD, but I have to tell you, the offensive line I played with here at Hanover was second to none. I mean, we had a great group: Sam George, Jim Spencer, Gary Fricky, Doug Parsley, Steve Dill, Steve Ferguson, Jack Tharp, Chuck Pesher, Glenn Clausen, Glenn Brown, Elijah Buell, Greg Snow, Greg Linhart, and a host of others. We had a great group of backs, led by my lifelong buddy Bruce Harbison. We had the Twin Delights from Dixie Heights, the Heinzman brothers. We had Mike Fine and Kenny Miller. We had great receivers like Greg Whitehead. We had Gary Myers, who was an unbelievable receiver, really quick, Marty Grimes, and many others. Our defense was anchored by a group of guys that gave up 30 total points our senior year. 30 points. Heck, the first time I came to a Hanover game after I got out of coaching, my son says, Hanover came from behind and won 42-35. He said, Dad, did you guys score that many points when you were in school? I said, yeah, we averaged 42 points when I was a junior and 45 when I was a senior. And he said, well, did you give up that many points? I said, yeah. He said, you gave up 35 a game? I said, no, we gave up 30 all season. That's the kind of defense we had. Brent Smith was the captain of that defense and was unbelievable, was a great leader. with the likes of Dan Allen, who's up here with me tonight, who was a heck of a player, even when he was a freshman when we were juniors and a sophomore our senior year, and was still a stud linebacker. Mike Chalk was a great defensive tackle. Tim Hinkle, one of the finest defensive backs that ever played here. Frank Denton, Howard Jones, Rick Robertson, Steve Dozeman, Keith Gary, Ed Raymond, Rob West, and many others. All you guys that played ball here in the 70s, stand, please. Come on, Smith, stand up. I know you want to stand. Thanks, you guys. In closing, I just want to say, Brent Smith and I have been kidding each other for 30 years about who carried the other one on the other one's back and whatever. And since I have the mic tonight, Smith, I carried you. But really, I have to say we carried one another for 4 years, and we've all continued to do that in our lives. And I thank all of you guys for a great experience and wish you only the best. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pete. Thanks for the plaque. From the class of 1939, Carolyn Haag, who came to Hanover in 1935 from Salem, Indiana. While here at Hanover, she participated in baseball, basketball, field hockey, soccer, speedball, tap dancing, track, and volleyball. Did she study? Did she have time to study? I don't know. She earned 13 varsity ribbons, 3 substitute ribbons, and the prestigious Women's Athletic Association award. Following college, Carolyn taught physical education, health, and research. So she did catch up after all those athletics, including a number of years at Bedford, Indiana High School, where she started the Girls Athletic Association. She taught for more than 30 years in the Salem school system, retiring in 1987. Presenting Carolyn Haag with her award tonight is her son, Dr. Brian Haag, Hanover class of 1974. So at this time, I present Carolyn Haag.
When the letter arrived from Hanover College that I was going to be inducted into the Athletic Hall of Fame, I turned cartwheels all the way from the mailbox back to the house. Or I could have tap danced. I thought about shouting it from the rooftop, but I looked up and there were 3 men on the roof putting on a new one, and I thought, no. Recently, I watched Guy Morris on television. He is the football coach at the University of Kentucky, and he was crying. He was happy. He was so happy about things that were going well that he was crying. But I'm not going to cry. I'm happy. But I do want to express my appreciation for this honor and my thanks. It did start in 1935 when I arrived at Hanover. The enrollment then was 350. The enrollment now is over 1,000. Then there was a staff of 26. Now there are 200 faculty and staff members. The campus was 200 acres. Now 630 acres with 34 or 35 major buildings. The women's gym was located in the basement of the women's dormitory. And once when I was playing basketball, my wristwatch slipped off and fell into a crack between the wall and the floor. Do you realize that somewhere beneath the administration building is my watch? One homecoming, we had to roll the snow off the field in order to play hockey with the alums. Now, while Frank was busy editing the Triangle, of which my sister Margaret, who is here tonight, was on the staff. I was busy editing the Sports Girl. That was the publication of the Women's Athletic Association, and it had columns like shin splints and Charlie horses. And so I'm thankful for the good memories of those times of the students and the staff. But now, fast forward to 1939. See the seniors. See the seniors graduate. See the seniors look for jobs. My first, and then there were the interviews, and there were the applications. And then I got my first teaching job. See my parents smile. And this is what the contract said. And said corporation further agrees to pay said Carolyn DeJean for services as teacher of said school corporation the sum of $1,000 for a school year of 8 months. That was the beginning of a career that would last for 34 years. So many great students to remember. Sarah went to IU to play basketball. She is now my minister. Tricia was a great student. She will be my dentist. And last May, I was here for the Alumna Achievement Awards, and one of them honored was James Green. Carol Godfrey Green is his wife, and it's a pleasure to remember her as a student. But then it was time to retire, and it became nice to no longer be Mrs. Haag to my students, but to answer more often to Mama or Mom. And so now I have an opportunity to reflect on just how much all of my family has meant to me. And they're with me tonight, my 3 sons, daughters-in-law, two of my 6 grandchildren, my brother and sister-in-law, my sister, Margaret, who was a student here, and my friends, Susie and Sarah. I've come back to Hanover many times since 1939, but nothing has ever been this special, and I thank you for selecting me for this honor. And now you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to Disney World.
I don't know if I should tell you this or not, but Dick Naylor was rummaging around in the basement here one day, ran across a watch. Showed it to John Collier, and John gave it to Jean for Christmas. Frank Hartley, a member of the class of 1938. Frank came to Hanover in 1934 from Scottsburg, Indiana, and as a former Madison Cub, I never thought I'd have anything good to say about a Scottsburg Warrior, but he's certainly an exception because he garnered 4 letters in basketball, 3 in track, and earned a reputation as one of the early Indiana collegiate players to master the hook shot. He was also editor of the school newspaper for 2 years, training for his profession as a journalist. Frank served in the Army during World War II, receiving a battlefield commission, and was awarded the Bronze Star. Frank was an editor and reporter with the Louisville Times for 43 years, including 18 years as sports editor. He retired from there in 1981, and presenting Frank Hartley with his award tonight is Jim Darrell, Hanover class of 1933. So ladies and gentlemen, please, Frank Hartley.
Vince, Dr. and Miss Nichols, honored guests, and great group they are, believe me, and you guests, you nice people for coming out for this. It speaks a lot for Hanover, and Hanover speaks for itself. Unfortunately, I can't introduce to you my teammates from 1938. For those of you who don't remember 1938, that was a long time ago. I do want to introduce to you my family and some friends, wonderful people who, when they heard that I had won this award, they said, we'll be here. First, my daughter, Cindy Hartley. Let them see you, Cindy. There you go. Is that what you were saying? My son, Don Hartley. My granddaughter, Allison. She's a student at the University of Kentucky, and she drove all the way in here just to be with me. My brother and my sister-in-law, William Lloyd Hartley, a Hanover graduate. He's standing up. And my very, very, very good friend, Pat Camposano. Now, the people at the table behind her, I'm not going to introduce all of them by name. I know them all. They've either adopted me or I've adopted them, but I'm fortunate. They're Pat's children and grandchildren, and I love them. I don't have a big speech to make like you've heard here tonight. I got a letter some time ago saying you might recount some incidents, something that was important to you. I'm going to tell you a couple of stories about a man, you've all heard of him, John Van Loo. John Van Loo was the baseball coach, the basketball coach, the tennis coach, track coach, whatever, anything that the women didn't do, he coached. And I don't know how the man did it. I was told when he was here, he came in 1929, and that he had been, I can't verify this, but somebody might, if there's anybody around that knows anything about the records, that he had at one time coached the Peruvian Olympic track team. And I believe it because he was a very gifted track coach. He was a good football coach, but he didn't have squads of 70, 80. You heard Carolyn say the student body when she was here, and we were here at the same time for 3 years. So if he got 22, you know, in those days you played offense and defense. You didn't have these two teams. But if he had 22 players so he could scrimmage, he had a good year. But he never cut a player. Now, I'm honored that somebody has credited me with being one of the leading developers of the hook shot. But I also think that I hold the distinction of being the first person ever cut from the Hanover football team. I had never played football. But in my senior year, I thought, well, I can handle this. I was editor of the Triangle, and I was going to play basketball, which I had always done. But I wanted to get another letter, is what I wanted to do. And so I went out for football. And we practiced about a couple of weeks, or maybe not that long. And then Van decided it was time to have a scrimmage. So we had enough players to have a scrimmage. And somebody said to me, you know, you didn't have receivers and tight ends and all. They just said, you're playing end. So I knew roughly what the end did. He was supposed to catch passes and things like that. I didn't know much else about it. But Van took the squad and he put the good guys all on one team and the rest of us on the other team. But the nice thing he did, he gave us the good quarterback and put a second string quarterback on the other. So we scrubs got the ball first. And this quarterback that was the regular quarterback was a good friend of mine, and he knew I wanted to play football, and he said, Frank, now we're going to make a good showing for you. I'm going to throw you a lot of passes. I said, great. So on the first play from scrimmage, he called my number, and I went out for the pass. I did grab the ball, but about that time, somebody hit me so hard that I went down, and they had to help me up. So I was limping pretty badly on one ankle, and I went on over to the bench to sit down because Van Loo didn't want me to get hurt before basketball season. But he came over and sat down on the bench with me, put his arm around me and said, now remember, I was editor of the Triangle. He said, Frankie, I think you ought to just stay with the typewriter. If you stay out here, you're going to get killed. So I think I was the first player ever cut. Van Loo was a master at getting people to do for him what he wanted done. Coach Collier, I think you knew him. I don't know whether you're that old or not. But he didn't have much budget, didn't have any athletic budget to speak of. And in basketball, I have no idea what the football team did, but in basketball, when we traveled, and Van liked to take overnight trips, long enough overnight trips, because he drove the car, and he had a car about almost as long as this room, that he could carry the whole team in his car, and he got paid mileage. So we'd go to Valparaiso, about as far as we could go, LaPorte. We'd go to Oakland City and Evansville, and these would be overnight trips. So before a game, we'd go to a drugstore to eat, and each of us got 15 cents. 15 cents, now that's your pregame meal. If you won, you got a quarter to eat after the game. If you lost, you got 15 cents again. So none of us got overweight, believe me. He had another trick that I know a lot of coaches have used, or a lot of people have used. And even back in those days, you know, we played basketball, and we had great fun playing basketball. And I think we must have been pretty good, because I think I am the last starter on that team my senior year to be inducted. And I think that's a great honor, that all 5 of us. But he would, after the game, he had a plan with his wife. He would call, but she wouldn't dare answer. He'd call long distance when we were out of town. If he let it ring twice, we won. If we lost, he let it ring 3 times, and then she hung up at the other end. So the students did have some interest in it, and they would call her, and she didn't know the score, of course, because it was just the ring. And she would then tell him whether we won or lost the game. Now, as I say, sad as I am to not be able to tell you about an awful lot of people, I do think that I should tell you a classroom story. It wasn't all just sports. I mean, I did go to class. I wasn't the greatest student in the world, but that was because I didn't have much time. Dr. Haag. I don't know how long Dr. Haag was here. He was one of the history teachers. And he was a fine young fellow, not long out of Harvard. And for some reason or other, the second semester of my senior year, I'm taking the French Revolution and Napoleon. Now, why I took the French Revolution and Napoleon, I'll never know, but it's sort of like the faculty advisor when I registered as a freshman told me that because I'd had physics in high school, I should take chemistry. So I said, okay, he was advising me. And I did. I signed up for chemistry. Well, I got in the chemistry class. I was the only one in there that hadn't had high school chemistry. Now, if you don't think that was something. The first semester was not too bad. All I had to do was memorize H2O and CO and those kinds of things. So what I wanted to tell you, though, about Dr. Haag, he came, in the middle of the class one day, he stopped after I'd answered a question, actually. And he said, Mr. Hartley, often you are very, very good at your answers. And he said, you make them very interesting, short and sweet. Well, I'll tell you, the class all turned around. You know, I was sitting in the back row and they all turned around. What's going to happen next? So I thought, well, if he likes the way I do this, I'll just try and figure out what to say in class from now on. Anytime he answers me, I'll try and make some kind of a real deep, good answer. And I did. And I thought he'd pay a lot of attention to me. He didn't. And I wound up getting a C- in the course. So, you know, I thought that was pretty good. So again, thank you all for being here. I thank my family and my friends for coming in from Louisville. I thank whoever it is that said I might have had something to do with the hook shot. And I'm going to come up here for the basketball midwinter thing this year, because I got a letter from that the other day, and the varsity is going to have a hook shot demonstration. And I probably still have the basketball shoes that I wore at Hanover. And I'll tell you why I think so, because it was the only pair I ever had in 4 years. They were leather, and at the end of the season, you'd turn your shoes in, and they'd be thrown at a lot or some locker or someplace, wherever, until the next year, and had your name on them, and then they'd give you the same shoes back. And if you don't think those things were pretty stiff, you know, in a locker after that. So it'd take about 2 or 3 weeks to get them so you could wear them. So, I probably still have those because I took them with me when I left school. Thank you very much.
Susie Knierim graduated from Illinois State Normal College in 1956. She received her master's and doctoral degree from the University of Iowa in 1960 and 1970, respectively. Susie was the director of women's athletics at Hanover from 1960 to 1966, and again from 1968-1969. She also coached the field hockey, basketball, volleyball, and tennis teams. She was a pioneer in establishing intercollegiate athletics for women here at Hanover, and later served as a professor of physical education for 22 years at Slippery Rock University in Pennsylvania. Susie was inducted into the Illinois State Athletic Hall of Fame in 1979 and was presented the President's Award for Outstanding Service from Slippery Rock in 1987. So tonight, She's going to be honored by Hanover College. Presenting the award to Susie this evening is Susan Thompson. Also, Millie Lemon's going to participate. Millie was a charter member, by the way, if you might recall, of the Hanover Hall of Fame. Susan Thompson's a member of the Hanover class of 1968. And ladies and gentlemen, Susie Knierim.
Now, let's remember. All right. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming up the steps. It certainly is fun to be here. I have been seeing so many people that we worked with a long, long time ago. I arrived here at Hanover College from the University of Iowa after I received my master's degree there. And Millie Lemon was teaching here, but we had met at the University of Iowa, and you can imagine who it was that got me to come here to teach. Wasn't that nice? So I'm very happy she encouraged me to come here, because this was my very first experience to work with college students. And although all those sports activities that we were doing was something that had always been my favorite activities. So this was my first chance to really teach, and it was a lot of fun. During the whole time here, I had the opportunity to coach field hockey, basketball, tennis, or volleyball, all those different things. Our physical education majors had to play on all of those different sports so they could learn the techniques of each of the sport and go on and use them in their future jobs. These activities took place every weekend throughout the fall to the spring, and it was really fun. And we had a lot of fun doing all those things. We traveled all over the state of Indiana, playing groups at Purdue, Ball State, Franklin College, DePaul, and Erland College, and then all of those people came down here to play with us too. And I hope a lot of you all that were here then remember that. I would like to recognize those wonderful folks that are here that I worked with. Would all of those folks who were athletics while I was coaching here in the 1960s stand up? Can you do that? There's a whole bunch of you here. That's what I thought. Very good. Good to see you. In 1967, I received a Fulbright scholarship to teach at the University of Baghdad in Iraq, over in the Middle East. And it was a difficult decision to leave here, to leave from Hanover, but it was an opportunity to develop some new skills. And so our government from the United States, 20 of us over there, 19 men and me. I was the only woman that went. And it was a very unusual situation over there. At the end of the year, in June of 1960, a war in And unfortunately, I've been teaching those ladies over there in the Middle East how to play all these games too, which was fun for them. But once that war started, the Middle East area was again the United States and England, and all of us were kicked out. And fortunately, while I was there, the folks had sent a letter, and they invited me to come back here again. And that's why he was talking about why I was here at two different times, because after that war and we were kicked out of there, then I came back here, and which I enjoyed, and taught again for another year. I had one more nice year here and felt like I needed more education, so I decided in 1969 to go back to Iowa to get my PhD, which I did the next year. So anyway, that's basically all those things, and it's so nice to see these folks that we played lots of sports and games with here. I'd like to recognize my mother and my two sisters, Margie and Charlene, who are over here with me. You want to stand up? No? That's okay. But thank you all for the nice review of the 1960s and the wonderful times that we had here with all those sports. I've been bringing back all kinds of memories since I've gotten here. So thank you very, very much.
Presenting Mike with his award this evening are his parents, Robert and Beverly Luker. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mike Luker into the Hall of Fame.
I've got 4 quick thank yous. As a receiver, I've been well trained over the years that the first people you mention anytime you get a chance to speak publicly are your quarterbacks. I think Coach Leonard taught me that, former quarterback that he is. Seriously, I had the fortune in my 4 years here at Hanover to play with 3 of the best quarterbacks I ever saw. And 2 of them are here tonight. Jon Pinnick, who you're going to hear from in a little bit, was a senior when I was a sophomore. And Bob Burkhart, who I told I was going to call out of the crowd tonight, Bob, Bob was my junior year. These 2 guys, they made football fun. You know, not only did they put the ball on the money every time, playing receiver with these guys was cake, you know, because the ball was always right there. But more than that, if you're in the huddle with these guys, they're 2 of the coolest customers I ever played with. You know, you come in there as a little sophomore, don't even think you should be on the field, and they make you laugh, they make you comfortable. And frankly, they made our team go. I told John before we were standing in the hall, and I can still remember coming into the huddle as a little sophomore in the playoffs that year against Wisconsin lacrosse, scared to death. And John in 2 minutes left in the game, we're behind. John comes in, says, quick pass, looks at me, and he says, cut your split down. That meant I was getting the ball, you know, the heart's doing this. But somehow that was okay. And then my senior year, Gary Green, who was my roommate and best friend throughout my days at Hanover, couldn't be here tonight, but out throwing me a lot of passes, he introduced me to my wife, so he gets a big check mark there. Secondly, the coaches, Coach Perry, Coach Leonard here tonight. Bob and I went out to practice today, and the familiar faces, it was amazing. Coach Perry, Coach Leonard, Coach Teresco, all three faces were here 13 years ago when I was playing. And I really think that continuity, that dedication to Hanover is the reason you see a 4-0 team this year, and you've seen, what, 3 or 4 10-win seasons over the last 5 or 6 years. You guys made football fun, too. So thank you very much. Coach Leonard, best coach I ever played for. My dad was number 1. So, you know, that's... Coached my Little League team how to play. Thirdly, my family. I'm not going to call everyone out. Thank you for being here. My mother and father-in-law drove up from Tennessee. Sister, brother-in-law are here. I do want to introduce my kids, and they're going to stand up. Blake, would you stand up and wave to everybody? Blake. Brett, stand up and say hi. Brody. Three boys. You can imagine what our house is like. And my wife, Michelle, who truly is the glue that holds this whole circus together. So thank you all for being here. And then lastly, but actually foremost, I want to thank God for all the blessings that I've had in my life. I've been very blessed growing up at Hanover, beyond Hanover, and again here tonight, and I'm very thankful. Thank you very much.
This next inductee is a little concerned. No, he's actually frightened at what I might say about him. Jon Mussel, class of 1974. Jon was a standout athlete at Shaw Memorial High School in Madison, graduating in 1970, and had the honor of announcing a lot of basketball games that he was in when he played at Shaw. He was a 3-year letter winner here in basketball, a member of 2 NAIA national tournament teams, including the Elite 8 squad in 1974, which posted the best record in school history, 29 wins and only 4 setbacks. He finished his playing career with more than 1,000 points, 600 rebounds, and 400 assists. He was captain, team most valuable player, and an all-conference pick his senior year. He hoped that this surprise, I was surprised at this, I gotta say. He holds the school record for most assists with 18 in one game. Jon's been in the banking industry in Madison for over 25 years and serves on many civic organizations in Jefferson County. And he's also still active in sports. His daughter and my granddaughter seem to be going in the same circles in Little League. In basketball, they played a couple of years ago on opposing teams, and my son will have to be coaching my granddaughter's team, but I said, Brand, let me tell you now, Jon Mussel's team, if I know Jon, is going to rebound. They're going to pass the ball very well, and they're going to really be great defensive players, and they're going to be hard-nosed. They're going to be tough. From the opening quarter until the end of the game, all we heard from Jon's bench was shoot, 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 shoot. Well, now they're going around in soccer circles, and about 2 weeks ago was in the soccer game. They're playing each other, his daughter and my granddaughter. As my granddaughter's into the field, a lot of the parents are saying, pass the ball. I don't know that much about soccer, but pass the ball, you know, or kick it to Ashley or whatever. I hear from a lawn chair down at the other end of the court, shoot, 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 shoot. But I knew Jon was going to be special when he was in high school. From his career at Shaw, he was just truly outstanding. And when he decided to go to Hanover, sometimes there's not a fit. Now, I didn't suspect there wouldn't be, but sometimes a player just doesn't fit in with an offensive scheme or a coach's philosophy. And I thought to myself, I sure hope Hanover appreciates the caliber of basketball player that they're getting. Well, obviously they do, because tonight Jon is in the Hall of Fame, and presenting his award as a Hall of Fame member himself, charter member, Indiana Hall of Fame, NAIA National Coach of the Year, Jon Pinnick. So please welcome Jon Mussel.
Well, that's an ugly picture, I'll tell you. But it's me. President Nichols, distinguished guests, fellow inductees, it's a great pleasure to be here. We're going to see how good I did in that speech class 30 years ago with Dr. Weeder. I didn't pay a lot of attention, but I did pick up a couple of things, and one was to make notes. So we'll see how that goes. This is always an exciting time of year for me in October because basketball practice was getting started, and you'd worked all summer and practiced in the preseason and so on, and you were really ready to get going. So it's a special time of year. And I appreciate Hank's introduction, and I've always been fond of Hank, and I appreciate the things that he did for us when we were in school. He's much too modest. He went to more road games announcing on the radio, Bluffton on a Tuesday night, you know, in the snow and things like that. And he'd have to come back, you know, and go to work the next day. So he did a great thing for us, and I really appreciate that. But this thing about shoot was in basketball, my kids couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. So, I mean, I had to have them putting it up there a lot and so on. But Hank played for Bud Ritter, and that shoot thing, he should have been used to it because Bud was having him shoot all the time. And the thing I remember about when Hank played was that the next assist he got was going to be his first. You know, I mean, it was going to just be that way. I got this letter about getting inducted, and it brought back a big flashback for me. You got to remember, I played in the 1970s, and the Vietnam War was going on, and race riots and things like that. So if you got an induction letter at that point in time in your life, it was not the most pleasant thing that you wanted. But I read on, and I thought maybe the government had caught up with me finally, but it was better than that. I'd like to thank the selection committee. And I'd like to thank Lee Ennis for nominating me. I really do appreciate it. It's a great, great honor. And I'd like to honor fellow Madisonians who were inducted into the Hall of Fame. Ray Green, Bill Stucker, who's here, Tuffy Hamilton, Andy Taft, and Gus Moorhead. And there might be some others I missed, but those are Hall of Famers from Madison. It's a great community, and we've had a lot of good association with Hanover over the years. It's been a big year for me. I turned 50 this year, a week or so ago. I changed jobs after being on the same job for 28 years, and now I'm getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. So, I mean, it's been quite a good year for me, really, and I'm really happy and excited to be here. But I do have to tell you that I'm really surprised to be here. And the reason I'm surprised to be here is that when I was in high school, I started following Hanover College. And that was the time when Coach Kyer and Coach Naylor came in, and they had great, great teams. Mark Gabriel, Steve Wilson, Rob St. Pierre, Phil Winnie. They were really, really tough. And I would go to games in high school and see these guys play. And the gym would be packed. I mean, there were people everywhere in Lynn Hall. And I remember thinking, wow, this is really some place to go to school. And I remember going to a game in particular. It was a big playoff game or something. It was really important to win. And we were rooting along, and I looked up, and there was this banner across. It seemed like it was the whole side of the gym. And it said, "The angel Gabriel said to St. Pierre, 'I will, son, and Hanover continue its winning ways. And I looked at that and I thought, how did they do that? You know, I mean, this must be a really creative place to come up with things. So I was really interested in coming to school here. So my senior year in high school, I come out to the admissions office, you know, go through that and the $100 deal, you know, that type of thing. Maybe it's 50, I'm older than you, I don't know. And so they said, would you like to go over and talk to one of the coaches? I said, yeah, that'd be great. They said, well, we get on the phone, they call Coach Naylor. So I walk over to Lynn Hall, my sister was with me. She's a couple of years older than me, she went to Franklin College. She was in Franklin College at the time. So I go over to Coach Naylor's office there in Lynn Hall, go in, you know, go through these little niceties and this and that. Oh, he played basketball at Shaw, you know, little Catholic school. And we're just coming off a season of, you know, going to the national finals, and we're pretty good, you know. And so he kind of questioned me about whether I can play there or not. And so we go through this for a while, and I guess got this impression, you know, he wasn't real interested in me coming to school here. So finally he said, you know, your sister goes to Franklin. Maybe you ought to go to Franklin. It's the truth. But you know, I'd been watching these games and stuff, and I thought, nah, I'm going to Hanover. I'm going to show this guy something. So I came. And it was a great decision for me. And it was a very great part of my life. But I do have to thank and recognize certain people and tell you that they all have a common denominator. They challenged me in one of what many ways are a combination of ways. They challenged me academically, they challenged me athletically, they challenged me morally, and they challenged me to give back to life more than I took from life. So I have to start with my parents, who are both passed away now. And they grew up in the Depression era. My father grew up in a farm in Illinois. My mother grew up in Madison, Indiana. They both volunteered in World War II. My mother is a Red Cross nurse, my father into the military. Lo and behold, they meet in Danville, Kentucky, fall in love, get married, move to Madison, Indiana. My father went back to school after he got out of the military and went to college. And he was the first person in my family to graduate from college. So I was presented with quite a task as a young man to live up to that, to do the things that they had done. Then they turned me over to the Catholic school system, which is a whole different subject that we don't have time to discuss in detail. But let me tell you, it was a disciplined life. We worked hard, we had a lot of discipline, but a lot of good teachers, a lot of good role models. And I went into Shaw High School. And at Shaw, and through my grade school career, I had great teammates and great friends. And one of my best friends in life is here, Mark Cheatham. I'd like to recognize him. Great friend, helped me out. I appreciate you being here, Mark. And two gentlemen are here that influenced my life a lot. My two high school coaches, two basketball coaches in high school, Tom McKenna, who was my coach my senior year, who's a Notre Dame grad, of all places. Why would you go to Notre Dame when a school like Hanover's here, you know? I mean, why would you do that? Too close. Too close. And Tom challenged me a lot, made me think about things in life. And he went on to become a lawyer. He got sense and got out of coaching. And now he's in politics, and he's in charge of commerce for the state of Indiana with Lieutenant Governor Joe Kernan. So I'd like to recognize Tom and thank you for what you've done for me. And then my other high school coach is, of course, he is a Hanover grad. So Jim Lee, I want to thank you for the things you did for me. Coach Lee left after my junior year in high school, but he wrote me a letter that I still remember that urged me to go on and make something out of my life. And I appreciate that, Coach. Thank you. Now, basketball. Where did I get most of my basketball education? Well, Hank, Crystal Beach in Madison. What a place. Rough, tough, street basketball, a quick style, trash talking. Let me tell you, it was a place to play, but it was fun. And I played against great Madison players there, the Humes brothers, Larry Humes, what an education about basketball. But then I also played against another guy who made the wrong move and went to DePaul in college, but now he's a football coach here at Hanover. It's Coach Perry. He's a Madisonian, and we played a lot of basketball at Crystal Beach. And I don't know why I ever did this, but we used to like to wrestle. And we would wrestle for milkshakes. Well, I don't know if you know how big Coach Perry is. I'm not a little guy, but I never won a milkshake. He won every one of those things. So I appreciate our friendship over the years, and thank you for our friendship. When I got to college, I had the great fortune of playing for Coach Kyer and Coach Naylor. Hank's talked about Coach Kyer's credentials. He gave me a great opportunity to play, and I always appreciate that, and he was a great role model for me. Coach Naylor, he didn't want me to come, but I came anyway. And I have a great fondness for you, Coach, and I appreciate what you did. I mean, it's kind of funny. These two guys, you know, Coach Kyer's the nice guy. You got to have the good guy and the bad guy in life, right? Coach Kyer's the nice guy. You know, everything's hunky-dory and we're rolling on practice. Coach Naylor's the bad guy. He's chewing on us all the time. You know, it's a privilege to be here. Get your hair cut. You know, all this kind of stuff. So I do appreciate what you've done for me. And then while I was here, it was kind of an interesting time. In my freshman year, we went 9-15, one of the only losing seasons Coach Kyer had here. And part of that is that Mr. Gabriel and Mr. Wilson had done such a job on our competition that they were really mad by the time I got here. And they wanted to beat up on us pretty bad. So it was a really interesting year and a growing year for us. We had 3 guys quit that season, 2 of them at half times of games, and 1 was a road game. So that was an interesting trip home, believe me. And I don't mean a road game to Madison. I'm talking about to Anderson. That was quite a trip back. But we worked hard and had a lot of fun in those years. Coach Kyer ran a basketball camp then, and we worked at the camp in the summers and had a great education there because these kids that would come into camp, you know, they get away from their parents and stuff, and gosh, you can't believe some of the things they would do, good and bad. I mean, it was amazing what they would do. And then I had great teammates when I was here. 2 Hall of Fame members, Pat Williams and Dennis Laker, and then Jeff Jay and Bill Bowen, who are here, were great friends and great teammates, and Tony Smith was another teammate of mine. Mr. Corrao was a contemporary of mine in football at the same time, and some of his friends that are here. It was a great thing, and I appreciate your friendship and playing with you. It was great fun. Also had 2 great roommates when I was here. Scott Pollum, who's here, was my first roommate. We can't talk about a lot of things we did those first couple of years of college, but we had a really good time. And then Phil Foster was my roommate the second 2 years I was here. My senior year, Hank said that we went 29-4, which was a great year. But 2 things I remember most about my senior year, and they're both kind of scary things, is number one is that the tornado went through campus and did a lot of damage, and it was really amazing to have been on campus for all these years and know it to look a certain way, and then you go out after the tornado and it's just completely different. It was just unbelievable. But the second scary thing that happened to me that senior year was we were playing in a tournament in Quincy, Illinois, and it had snowed. We were living in a dorm like it was at Quincy. It was a really good holiday tournament. The accommodations weren't very good, but the dorm, we were in this dorm. And we were getting ready to go home the next day. And it snowed like crazy and this and that. So we were in there and we were sleeping. All of a sudden the fire alarm goes off. And you're like, oh gosh, what's going on? What is this? So we all, come stumbling out into the hallway and this and that. And I look out there and there's Coach Kyer and Coach Naylor in their pajamas. And I'll tell you what, now that was, I didn't care about the fire. I just wanted to get the heck out of there. So, anyway, I've rambled about enough. There's 3 things that I'd like to tell you that my experience at Hanover gave me, and 3 great things, I think. Number 1 is I got a tremendous lesson about people. We were in an interesting time in the early 1970s with what was going on politically in our country. And people had a lot of different attitudes about those things. So I got a great education about people and how they thought, how they reacted to things. And I got, in relation to that, I got a lot of great friends, lifelong friends. Number two is my education was expanded when I was at Hanover. I'd gotten a good basic education in Catholic grades in high school. But when I came to college here, I'm not talking about a factual education, about learning facts about things. I'm talking about a way to think, a way to learn, a way to figure out things. And the third great thing that happened to me when I came to Hanover was I met my wife, Sally, which is the best thing that ever happened to me. But I got to tell you how I met her. I was working for Larry Shook, who was a football coach, at this driving range out here, the putt-putt driving range out here. And it was kind of a dog job. You know, not much was going on out there ever and so on. So I spent a lot of time out there looking around, this and that. Well, one night, I'm out there and I'm working, and along comes my buddy Tony Smith, basketball player. And he's got this good-looking girl with him. And so, he wanted to play putt-putt golf. So, okay, go out and play. I didn't charge him. Let him go out and play. Don't tell Coach Shook that. I probably owe him money. So, they're out there playing around. I keep looking. I think, that's a pretty good-looking girl. She's a nice-looking girl. So I start, kind of moseying out there. Tony, what are you doing? How you doing? Pretty good. Well, who's this? This is Sally Craney. She's from Candleburg, Indiana. The turkey capital of the world. They raise turkeys down here. Oh, really? Yeah. So, we're going along, and so I start talking to her a little bit. They're playing golf, and so they're like shooting a golf shot with this putter or something, and I said, here, let me show you how to shoot that shot. She says, no, I don't want to. No, you're going to have my golf club. So she's got the golf club, there, and I got it here. We're going like this, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. She says, let go of that. So I let go of it. She pulls it back. Poor old Tony's standing right there beside her. She hit him flat in the face with a putter and cut him under the eye, and he has to get stitched. We had to take the guy to the hospital. Now, I thought any girl that could handle a golf club like that, I've got to get interested in it. So I did that, and it's been the best thing that ever happened to me in my life, and I love her dearly. And we have two wonderful children, Michael and Rachel, who are here. Michael's pretty shy, you can tell that. I don't know where he gets that. And one thing I missed that I'd like to say too is that I'd like to thank Mrs. Kyer, because there were a lot of days when we got up to go early to games, in Tennessee or someplace, and she'd fix breakfast for us at the house and get us over there. And I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. The other thing is I wanted to mention Dave Snyder. I came back in the early 80s and was a volunteer coach here, and they had a great team. And Dave Snyder's a Hall of Fame player, and I had the great fortune of coaching him and Joe Brunk, another Hall of Famer. So I really appreciate this honor. It means a lot to me. I thank you for your time, and I congratulate all the other inductees. Thank you very much.
John was telling the truth, by the way, about Crystal Beach. I ciphered out one time, and a long time ago, played at Crystal Beach, and over a period of a couple of years, there were 12 Indiana All-Stars down there that played at one time or another, and 5 members of the NBA down there, including Oscar Robertson. So it used to be the place to play in this part of the country. Jon Pinnick, class of 1987, came to Hanover in 1983 from Franklin. John lettered 4 years in football. He was named Most Valuable Player 3 times and is a 3-time first-team All-American. He led Hanover to the national playoffs in 1984, again in 1986, and finished his career with NAIA records for total yards per game, total passing yards per game, and most touchdown passes. He holds 6 career offensive records at Hanover, including total career offense, total passing yards for a career, total passes completed, and total touchdown passes in a career. John received his Juris Doctorate degree from Indiana University in 1990 and is currently a partner with the law firm in Carmel, Indiana. Presenting Jon with his award tonight are his parents, James and Helen Pinnick. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome an outstanding quarterback, Jon Pinnick.
Thank you, Mom and Dad. I want to thank everyone here. I want to thank the selection committee. I truly do appreciate this and regard this as a very big and important and significant honor. I want to congratulate each of the other members here. I know Mike, obviously, because I played with him. Didn't know any of the others until tonight, but after hearing their accomplishments and their achievements and what they've said, I truly do regard this as an honor going in with you all, too. So thanks. I, too, have several people I'd like to recognize up front, and then I'll probably say a few things about each one of them a little bit later. My parents, obviously, who just introduced me, my little brother Matt and his fiancée Jenny, my wife Lisa, and our 7-month-old daughter Rachel, who you probably heard earlier this evening several times. Also Jeff and Linda Smith, Pat Luce, and Carl Getty, who are here. Would you all stand, please? Thank you very much. And I'd like to say that while it's my name on this plaque going into the Hall of Fame, it wouldn't be fair if I didn't say and thank each and every individual that I played with during the 4 years that I was here. And to be fair, it would take me probably an hour, and I'd have to get the roster from each of those 4 years and go down that roster and thank everyone because they share in this award. And I want you all to know that. They helped me along. They supported me. They made me a better player. They made me a better person. So I wanted to thank each of those individuals, and I'll talk a little bit about a few of those by name a little bit later on. I do want to share a few memories, and if you'll indulge me, I want to start and kind of go chronologically. I want to go back to my sophomore year, actually in high school. It was August. We were in two-a-days football. I, at that time, was playing quarterback and also defensive back, and I had two junior quarterbacks in front of me. And I came home. My dad picked me up from practice one day. He might not remember this. I have a very vivid recollection of this. In any event, he drove me home and had a horrible day at practice. And I'd actually told him that I was thinking about giving up and quitting quarterback and just concentrating on defense. And he stopped in the driveway and wouldn't let me get out of the car. And he said, no, you're not going to quit. You're going to persevere. It doesn't matter who's in front of you. You're going to work hard. And one of these days that may pay off. So thank you, Dad, for pointing me in the right direction.
Thank you, Mr. Pinnick.
I next moved to my senior year in high school, and I made a recruiting trip down here with two other players. And in actuality, I wanted to come down here and play baseball and football. And to be honest, I was more interested in playing baseball. And I came down here and met with Coach Perry and Coach Mike McClure for football. And after that, I met with Coach Naylor for baseball. And he took me aside and he said, you know, Johnny, you might want to just concentrate on football for now. He probably doesn't remember that. This is a true story. I know this isn't picking on Coach Naylor tonight, but that's a true story. He said, just concentrate on football, you know, and after the first season, maybe we'll have a talk this winter about baseball. Well, we never had that talk, did we, Coach? Thank you, too, for pointing me in the right direction. next moved to, after I'd made the decision to come to Hanover, and each year, I don't know if Hanover still does it or not for the football team, but they have informal get-togethers or workouts during the summer. And in July of 1983, the informal workout was in Southport, at Southport High School, and I don't know if all the incoming freshmen were there, but a lot of them were, along with a lot of the current players at the time. And at that point in time, going into my freshman year, Coach Mike Leonard was the starting quarterback, and he was present that day. And there are many things for which I have to thank Coach Perry, but the first of which is this. He talked to all of us and told us what to expect and when we were going to have to report and all that kind of thing. And after that, we actually had some passing drills and passed a little bit. The offensive line happened to be present too, and there was Mike Leonard and I think 5 freshmen. And we each took turns taking a snap and throwing a pass route. Well, when it came my turn, I can vividly recall fumbling the first 4 straight snaps. And I heard Coach Gray in the background kind of grumbling and something about, you sure you don't want to play baseball, or something along those lines. In any event, I finally was able to hang on to one of those snaps and made a pass. And so, lesson there, thanks Coach Gray for not sending me on my way at that point in time. I got here to Hanover in August of 1983, and I think I was 6th or 7th on the depth chart. Mike Leonard was the starting quarterback, Joe Walker was a sophomore, and I think there were 5 freshmen. Being the 6th or 7th in line, we had the dubious distinction of being sent down to the defensive drills to run the opposing team's offense. And I did that quite often for the first few weeks, and actually the first couple of months of my freshman year. Had to run the option against our first-string defense. Needless to say, I got to know our defensive end very, very well. What really started things for me, actually, here at Hanover, was an injury to Mike Leonard. Unfortunate for him, fortunate for me. I think it was our 4th game my freshman year. He had was starting quarterback, obviously, and was putting up very big numbers, having a great year. He actually injured his knee against Wilmington. I don't recall if it was homecoming or not, but he taught me a little bit about himself. I think he tore, I don't know if it was an ACL or MCL, and he hobbled off the field, went back in the very next play and threw a touchdown pass. I don't know if he continued after that or not, but that got the ball rolling in terms of my development as a quarterback. And eventually that year, due to some other injuries, I finally got a chance to play. And I want to thank Coach Steve Foster, who's not here tonight, and I want to tell just a short story about him. He was the defensive ends coach, I think, and maybe defensive backs, I'm not sure. He also was the weight coach. And back then, and probably at the same time, a lot of you were here, the weight room was in the basement of Lynn Hall, and I think it was probably about 12 by 12. And I think we may have one universal machine, maybe a bench press or something along those lines. In any event, he had placed a sign up above the bench press on the wall, and it was actually a quote from Abraham Lincoln. And it's something that I lived by, and it's something that he really instilled and made me live by. That quote was, "I will get ready and then perhaps my chance will come." And in actuality, he made a copy of that sign and gave it to me middle of my freshman year. He said, "You just stick with it and good things may happen." So I want to thank Coach Steve Foster for that. Pat Luce, who I mentioned earlier tonight, is here, and I roomed with him for 3 years at the Fidel House. We had a ritual the night before each game, which I won't mention. The 10 minutes or so before we walked out to the football field, every home game, and this was his idea, we listened to Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA. Pat, thank you for getting me on that. That always got us fired up. There are many, many people that I'd like to name in terms of people who made me the quarterback that I was and are directly responsible for me being here. Most of these individuals are not here, but I still want to give them their due and name them. Offensive lineman Ted Theobald, Mike Meyer, the late Bob Wagner, Tom Spritsky, Brad Dreyer, Jim Hammond and Keith Kramer, all outstanding offensive linemen. They were made that way, of course, by Coach Perry, who was not only the head coach, but the offensive line coach. Thank you very much for beating those guys and turning them into the linemen that they were. Short story about them, my senior year, Brad Dreyer and Hammond and Keith Kramer and Tom Spritsky came up to me in the preseason and suggested that, you know, if you were to buy us blizzards every week after our game, we'd probably block for you a little bit better. True story. So after every game, my senior year, on Sunday nights when we came back for films, I went to Dairy Queen and bought them all blizzards. A few other people I'd like to thank, obviously receivers, Brian Perry, Dan Abro, and Todd Hines. An excellent threesome my sophomore year and junior year. Part of my junior year and senior year then, receivers such as Tom Thomas, Phil Reed, Jay Powell, Mike Thompson, Mike Luker came in my senior year, and Mark Kleiman, who was a fullback who also caught several passes for me. One thing that I do want to mention, while I had great numbers and due in large part to the individuals I've just named, in actuality it's really because of the system that's in place here at Hanover over the past 20 or 23 years, 22, ever since Coach Perry has been here. Hanover College has year in and year out had outstanding offenses, outstanding quarterbacks. They continue to do that, and that's largely the response and due to Coach Perry and Coach Mike McClure, who I think was the individual that put in the run and shoot here, and it still lasts today even without him. Thanks again, Coach Perry, for staying with that system. I'm almost done here, but I want to thank a few other people. Bill Griffith, who was the trainer when I was here. I don't think he actually had his trainer certificate, but he's the only individual that ever taped my ankles. And I had him taped every single day of practice and during every game. I wanted to thank him. The late Les Fox. I'm sure a lot of people here in the room remember Les Fox and the banquets he put on. There wasn't a bigger supporter for Hanover football or Hanover athletics than Les Fox. Coach Naylor, I've already talked about you a little bit. I want to thank you for all your support too when I was here. Coach Collier, you too, I appreciate the support that you put and gave to the football program and to me individually. Past President John Horner, a little story about him. After my sophomore year, going into my junior year, the first week or so that we were back in practice, he took me to the gym, the basketball gym, and Frank was talking about hook shots. President Horner had one heck of a hook shot as well. And he said, hey, come in here for a little bit, I want to talk to you. So we went into the gym that first week, and he said, you know, you had a very good year last year. Hope you're going to have good years your junior and senior year, but I want you to play some horse with me. And he broke out his hook shot, and I think he beat me HRSE and no letters. And he said, you know, just remember that. Have some humility, and I did, and he was a big supporter. Another individual I want to thank is actually here tonight is Professor Todd. I mentioned that Les Fox was a die-hard supporter of Hanover athletics and Hanover football, as was Professor Todd. And there was no better fan than Professor Todd. Thank you very much. He was also my geology professor for a semester or two. I mentioned earlier Pat Luce and introduced Jeff Smith and Carl Getty. I want to tell just a quick story about each of them, and then I'll close. When I met my wife, Lisa, in October 4, 1997, yes, I remember that, and she got to know me and whatnot, and over the years, or months or years, these three individuals, Jeff Smith and Pat Luce and Carl Getty, kept hanging around, and she asked, oh, did they go to college with you? Yes. Were they were fraternity brothers of mine? Yes. They played football? Yes. Oh, well, she said, they must have been your receivers. I said, no, in actuality, they were all defensive backs here. she's like, why in the world would you hang out with defensive backs? And I'm like, well, there's a very good reason for that. I said, it's not really because I like them that much. It was because being on the other side of the ball, I got to know what they as defensive backs looked for in a quarterback to be able to try to figure them out and play better defense and intercept passes and whatnot. So I wanted to thank those three directly for all the help and insight you gave me. Sorry, boys, it wasn't because I liked you that much. It's using you a little bit. One other quick story about that. Phil Oak sitting here, he was the fourth of the DBs that I continue to be very, very good friends with and close to. And they never knew this until after our senior year was over. But at the end of practice, or not at the end, but towards the end of each practice, we always had 7-on-7, where it was the quarterbacks, backs, and receivers would go up against the linebackers and defensive backs. And for 2 years, on each play that they were in the 7-on-7 defensive backfield, we would always go up, obviously, as a quarterback, and you give it cadence, and whether it's a color number, and then set go, whatever it is. I would call a play in the huddle, and there would always be a progression. In other words, you go up to the line, and you know your first look is at your wide receiver maybe, and then your second look is at the wing back, third look is at the other wide receiver. In any event, for 2 years I went up to the line, and whoever my first progression was, I would call out one of their numbers. Either 23 for Oaks, or 5 for Pat Luce, or 25 for Jeff Smith, or 37 for Carl Getty. And the reason I did that was because that was always my first progression. This is my first look. And for 2 years, they never figured that out, that I was throwing, at least my first look was going to be right at them. In any event, and to close, I do want to thank again the people that are here today, the people I introduced before. I want to thank again the selection committee. It is definitely a true honor. I'm very, very privileged to be here. And thank you, Mom and Dad, again. I love you. And there was no other two people that I wanted to present me with this plaque but you. Thank you very much.
John, with Dick Naylor as a recruiter, your accomplishments as a coach have taken on even more, you respect them even more than I did before. You know, when some of the top coaches in Indiana, the Bedridder that I played for, Barney Scott, a member of the Hall of Fame, Bill Stearman that used to be at Columbus, and some of those type of folks would gather and talk about their peers, there was a name that always came up as someone respected and as outstanding in the coaching field, and that is Bill Springer of the class of 1957. He was an outstanding athlete at Washington High School in Indianapolis, earning all-city honors in basketball. While at Hanover, he lettered 4 years in football, 3 seasons in baseball, and 2 seasons in basketball. As quarterback, he led the Panthers to a 9-1 record and the conference title in 1956. In baseball, team captain, most valuable player. Bill had a 40-year career as a high school basketball, baseball, and football coach in Indiana. In basketball, and listen to this, his teams won 539 games, 13 sectional tournament titles. Bill led Southport High School to the state finals in 1990 and was inducted into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame in 2001. Well, tonight he's in the Hanover Athletic Hall of Fame. And presenting him his award this evening is Bruce Cobb, Hanover class of 1982. Bill Springer.
Committee members, ladies and gentlemen, and people of this class, I want all of you to know that most of these people did not have Dutch Struck as a teacher, because Dutch, enormous number of times said, whenever you speak, use the 3 S's. Keep it short, keep it simple, stupid. And I know after all you've said here this long of a time that, you know, you're ready for that. John, if you really want to know something about your basketball coach, Jim Lee, then all you have to do is just ask me, because we went to high school together. So I can tell you some real good things about him, okay? Probably the biggest thing I remember about Hanover College is the fact that between my sophomore and junior year, I was married. My grades improved tremendously. Like these other fellows, you stay at home a little bit more. But I'd like to introduce to you my wife of 47 years, my best friend, my lover, the mother of our 5 children, my wife. We have 5 children. 3 of them are not here. One is a professor in Dallas. He's not here. One is married to a major in the Air Force and stationed in Tampa, Florida, and she's not here. And one of our sons is a college coach, and he's not here because he's coaching tennis and they're playing in their conference tournament. But my daughter Debbie and her husband Dave and my son John are here this evening. Would you stand up, please? Talking about big thrills, Bruce, who introduced me here this evening with the plaque, played for me and coached with me for 17 years. And I can't tell you, you know, how big a thrill it was to be involved in a high school basketball game in the state of Indiana in 1990 when we played before 40,395 people. Now, many of those people say came to watch Damon Bailey, but we know they came to watch Southport. Three people come to my mind when I think about Hanover College. You already mentioned one, Les Fox. I probably never would have come to Hanover College if it hadn't have been for Les Fox. I didn't even know where Hanover College was. Matter of fact, the first time I came to Hanover College was in August of 1953 to football practice. That's the first time I ever came here. I came here because Les Fox told me that this was the place to come. And I've never regretted that decision. Got a great education here, learned a lot of things. One of the professors that I had here, Dr. John Yarnell. You remember Dr. John? I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do when I came to Hanover. The only thing I knew I wanted to do was play football, basketball, and baseball. So I took a class under John Yarnell, a tremendous teacher, knew how to teach. It was never learned until it was taught, and it was never taught until it was learned. And because of him, I taught high school math for 42 years. But I probably never would have got into the profession if it hadn't been for him. Many of you have mentioned John Collier here tonight, and I hold the same feelings that you have for John Collier I have for Dutch Struck. Dutch was our man. I don't know how many different times I went with Dutch to different places or different things. He would say, you want to go with me to so-and-so, I'm going to speak there tonight. And you don't know the education that you get when you just stayed in a car with him for 2 or 3 hours. One of the classes that we had several classes with Dutch, and one of the things that I remember is this. Dutch said this many, many times. If you get what you want in your struggle for life and the world makes you king for a day, just go to that mirror and look at yourself and see what that guy has to say. For it isn't your father or mother or sister or brother whose judgment upon you must pass, but the fellow whose verdict counts most in your life is the one staring back in the glass. He's the one you must please, never mind all the rest, for he's with you clear up to the end. And you passed your most dangerous, difficult test. if the guy in the glass is your friend. Now, you may be like Jack Horner in Chisholm Plum and think you're a wonderful guy, but the guy in the class will call you a bum if you can't look him straight in the eye. Now, you may fool the whole world down the pathway of years and get pats on your back as you pass, but your final reward will be heartache and tears if you cheated that guy in the glass. And I used to tell our players, I used to say this to them sometimes because I heard it so many times from Dutch, but I used to say to them, you know, if you cheated yourself, that's not the worst type of cheating, but the worst type of cheating is if you cheated yourself, you cheated God, who is your maker, who is your creator, who has given you the ability to do things that you like to do. And one of the things that I know the players that have played for me, one of the things that I always said to them was, work as though you're working for the Lord and not for men. Is the Lord your maker? Is the one that will be your final judge. He's the one that will tell you whether you did the best that you could. He's the one who will determine your fate for all eternity. And so I would say to you this evening the same thing. I don't care whether you're young or old or in between. Work as though you're working for the Lord and not for men. Thank you.
Hank, no wonder he was so good. Hank Treesh, class of 1950, came to Hanover in 1946 after a banner career at Fort Wayne Southside High School. He was a key member of some of the school's greatest football teams, including the Burley Bowl team of 1949. He helped the Panthers boast a 26 victories, 3 losses, 1 tie record in those 3 seasons. He was the team's most valuable player as a senior and remains Hanover's all-time leading rusher with 2,517 yards. He also holds records for single-season rushing yardage with 1,383. Most rushing yards in a game, 279. Career rushing touchdowns, 32. And rushing touchdowns in a season, 17. He died in 1975, but here tonight to say a few words about Hank Treesh is his former teammate and a charter member of Hanover's Hall of Fame, Jim Peterson. So Jim, if you'll make your way up, please. As Jim comes forward, I would like to remind our inductees tonight not to forget to pick up your parking passes for tomorrow's football game. They'll be down here at the table where Dr. Nichols is. Some of them are down there now. The others I forgot to take down, but we'll shortly.
Thank you, Hank. Dr. Nichols, this year's inductees, and fellow Hanoverians. I'm particularly honored to accept this award for Hank. Having played with Hank brings back some very interesting memories. But one of the things that strikes me as kind of funny this evening is, John, I believe you said it, is when Coach Naylor said, you ought to get a haircut. What business does he have of telling anybody they ought to get a haircut? Dick and I go back a long way. Dick did his doctorate work at Indiana while I was on the faculty there, and I was able to become acquainted with him at that particular time. And also, John, I think one of the finest graduates and football players in Hanover's history also comes from Madison, and I think you left his name out. That was Turk Klein. Turk Klein. Yeah. Well, it was the Klein, Treesh, and one other guy on those teams that made things happen back in the 46, 47, 48. You must remember that was about 55 years ago. It was right after World War II. Most of us had been in the service. I happened to be in the Marine Corps, and all these other guys were in some other branch of the service. And they were the toughest and most honoriest bunch of fellows you ever saw in your life. John, you remember that. John is a year younger than most of us, but Hank was the kind of guy, he could have played football on any major college team. He could have played football on any professional team. He had the ability, like Crazy Legs Hirsch, for example. That's the kind of guy he was. He could run any place at any time. He would come to the huddle and say, they called me Swede in those days, and he said, Swede, give me that damn ball. He says, I can beat that guy around the end any day. And that's the kind of guy, he wanted the ball. He was after it. And the opposite side of our halfback group was a little guy by the name of Frank Teets. You remember Frank, John? Little guy. Frank wasn't any more than probably 5'6" and probably only weighed about 140 pounds. And he'd come in and he'd say, Sweet, he says, the coach says, don't send me up the middle. He was so fast he could scoot around the outside. And he says, but don't send me up the middle, because it'd break the little guy in two. But Hank was a marvelous football player. He was a little irascible. I'm sure he got his degree, but Hank was, if he were here tonight, you'd have to drag him up here. He just probably wouldn't come up to a rostrum like this and say anything, but a wonderful person, and I'm particularly honored and pleased to accept it on his behalf. And I too remember Dutch, Bill, I heard the same speeches that you did. Dutch Struck came out of Mishawaka, Indiana, and I came out of Elkhart, Indiana, so I played against Dutch in high school when he was a high school football coach in Mishawaka. Two other people that I must mention tonight that some of you will remember, Dutch certainly being one. The other is George Zirkle, and the other is Dr. Walter Stone. These are two people that set me on the path of my career, and I'm forever grateful for their guidance and their influence, and for Hanover College. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us this evening. By the way, you're invited to visit the Athletic Hall of Fame in the Horner Center. And don't forget tomorrow, campus for Homecoming Day festivities, which is going to be yet another banner day for Wayne Perry and the Football Panthers. The excellence of Hanover College, the reputation Hanover has earned, evidenced right here. So let's recognize our Hall of Famers one more time.